Hello and welcome back to Green Money Momentum, where we talk about market movements, making money, and money momentum. I'm your host, Trevor, and we are here for yet another daily talk of stock. And congratulations to all strong bulls out there, all the bullish investors who stuck true to their convictions during this last couple of months, while the bears were so loud and so many were calling for a recession and the end of the world. Look at this. The S&P 500 rises and has erased all losses for 2025. So when we look at the chart of the S&P 500, we can see that this last year we have been on a great W recovery, and this is aligned with exactly what we have been talking about on this channel. When we were at the bottom earlier this year, right after Liberation Day, we were talking about how the markets will recover, and now is the best time to invest because the markets officially got to a point of correction. So the major indexes, the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ, were down quite a bit. So we were talking about the bull and the bear markets and why we were personally investing when so many were fearful, because when we look at the history of the bull and the bear markets, we can see that typically the bull markets last a lot longer than the bear markets. And this recent drop that we've seen in the market was very short-lived. So that was a super quick recovery. I am super happy with where we are sitting at today. And so we are going to be talking about a couple different plays on this channel that we love. First, we're going to start out with DJT, not the president, but the company, Trump Media and Technology Group. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about BigBearAI. And Big Bear saw a pretty big jump today. So Big Bear was up about 10%. So we're going to start out here with DJT. And of course, this is a little bit more about the news here, but Trump says that U.S. will remove all sanctions on Syria. So there was a big meeting today, and Trump did announce that the Syria sanctions will be lifted. And so just in general, when it comes to trade and balance in the world, there is a lot recovering. So that is what you get when Donald Trump is your president. You start to see real moves within the economy. What's funny is we have been very bullish on the stock DJT in this last year, and a ton of times we have been going over to Truth Social. So we're always on Truth Social looking at what the president has to say. But I want to pull up this meme here because this has been circulating on the internet. And I think this is just so funny because we do still do our technical and fundamental analysis and do deep dive research on the markets. But lately, the news from Trump has been moving the markets. And so Trump really does hold the markets around his finger. Whatever he says could really push the markets up. And so 2 times in the last couple months, we have seen Trump say that now is a great time to buy and to buy stocks. And because of that, we have started to see a serious rally within the markets. And so now with DJT, of course, he is talking about buying stocks. So we're going to look at his stock, Truth Social, Trump Media and Technology Group. And this is funny right here. You could see just on chart. Hopefully this comes to fruition one day. With Robinhood Legend, you can do a lot of drawing. So it's just so much fun. Really sparks my inner kid when I used to play with paint, because you could just start drawing trend lines. And of course, I'm so interested in the stock market, so it's fun to draw some trend lines there. But I'm going to delete those drawings here. What we're mainly focused on is the here and now. Again, if the trend lines I drew come to fruition one day, that would be amazing. I was just doing that for fun last night. But let's draw out some lines here. So what I want to show first is the major support that is in DJT. So over the last year, we have been in this level here, right around the $21 to $27 range. So when we zoom out and look at the last year, we can see that this stock has been a high flying stock. It does move all over. We've seen prices as high as 30, 40, $50 and higher when it was originally with DWAC. So when it originally IPO'd with the SPAC back in the day, we saw the stock was up in the $100 range. But since that beginning days and since DJT has been the stock DJT, it has sat right around the $30, $40, $50, $60 range. But what's really healthy about this stock is with all the big green candlesticks we have seen, we've always seen us return back to the level that we are at right now. So for any new investors that are looking to invest into DJT, now might be a great opportunity, as we could see that most recently we have really bounced off this line a couple of times. So it looks like we are bouncing off of that line, and we know with the stock DJT, a lot of investors look at this as just a meme stock opportunity. So with the markets being so heavily tied to Trump right now and with what he says, you better bet that DJT, the stock, will see a lot of momentum just because of what the president says sometimes. But it's not just that that makes us bullish on DJT, but the actual intrinsic value behind Trump Media and Technology Group. So a lot of investors right now, and just a lot of people in general, course, because again, the president has been talking on Truth Social. We see all his truth posts and how that moves the economy, but Truth Social is so much more than that. So Truth Social does have the whole Truth Social platform, the app on your phone. They are also on Roku TV, so they do have a streaming service, but more than anything, they are heavily involved with cryptocurrency. And so the Trump family is very involved with cryptocurrency. We know earlier this year we saw the meme coins originally, the Trump and Melania meme coin, but it's so much more than that. And Trump Media and Technology Group is heavily invested into crypto. So just a couple weeks ago, this comes from March 25th, so about a month ago, we saw that Trump Media and Crypto.com are partnering on ETF offerings. And so this has been talked about for a while, a Made in America ETF, a TruthFi ETF, and crypto ETFs. So Trump is moving along creating ETFs for crypto. And also Trump Media and Technology did have a big investment with Charles Schwab's when it comes to cryptocurrency and well. And all of this is huge because we could be seeing a big pop in cryptocurrency coming up. So we know recently Bitcoin has surpassed the $100,000 mark again, and all cryptocurrencies are rising in general. So with Trump Media and Technology being so heavily attached to cryptocurrency, so Trump Media is going to grow right alongside cryptocurrency, and you better bet that their balance sheet is going to see earnings from the cryptocurrency investments and with their ETFs. But not only that, when you follow the whole storyline of what has been going on in the markets, we have been talking about this since last year before Trump got into office, and that is that there is the new SEC chairman, Paul Atkins. So this was highly anticipated, and that is because the old chairman, Gary Gensler, was very awful because of what he did. It did make a lot of plays have a hard time running. A lot of plays went under allegation, and overall things were taking a long time in the SEC to happen. The SEC in general is known to be corrupt, and so with Paul Atkins being the new chair of the SEC, that is absolutely huge, a lot more favorable for Trump. And recently we did see Trump Media urge the SEC to look at the halting and manipulation that has gone on with DJT. So this play could be a lot higher than it actually is, but there has been so much halting and manipulation. So the first time in recent memory when we saw a big run up when the halting happened was right here back in September. This was actually, funny enough, seriously right at the bottom, was the first time we ever talked about DJT. You could go back in my channel history and look at it. It was the first ever stock I talked about, and that was in September. But we were talking about how it was so undervalued and how and since that moment, there was such a big run up. So the stock DJT ran up all the way up to the $50 range. And then there was some halting and manipulation. And so for minutes at a time, this stock was not able to be traded. And it was very frustrating, getting halted multiple times a day. We did see that retraction. And then for a long time, this stock was stuck in this sideways trading channel until we saw the breakdown because of the overall fear, uncertainty, and doubt in the elections. But what is great is recently the markets have started to shift in sentiment, and we are starting to see this upwards bullish trend in the stock DJT. And don't just take my word for it when it comes to DJT, but there is a lot of large investors increasing their stake in Trump Media by hundreds of millions. So a lot of big investors are anticipating a big run up when it comes to DJT. And as we've been talking about on this channel, we'll just return back to that technical analysis. We could see that despite the little recovery we've had in the last couple of weeks, we are still at a low spot on this stock. So the stock moves a lot like a meme stock. stock. So despite all that intrinsic value, many will ignore that and look at this just as a meme stock opportunity. And because of the initials DJT, well, in general, the markets are starting to move more, and there's starting to be a lot more fear of missing out in the markets. So we may start to see some euphoria in the markets from just all the investors who are piling in and all the conversation of the markets. Again, during times of retraction, the bears are a lot louder than the bulls, but when things start to go better, the bulls are a lot louder than the bears. And there was a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt to this point in the markets, but now it seems that investor sentiment is kind of changing, and we may be seeing a big reversal in the trend. And so the bulls are going to start finally being louder than the bears. And with that being said, when the markets do start to run very bullish, a lot of meme stock opportunities will run as well. So during times when the markets are bullish is when you will see plays like AMC, GME, or just other stocks in general that fall into that meme stock category run more. And with Trump media, that's one of those stocks. We also have the potential rate cut with the Fed coming either next month or the month after that. And so when that rate cut does come, the markets are going to be very stimulative, and we may see a huge pop in the markets. And so with DJT, of course, a lot of investors are going to hop in when it's already too late, when the stock is seriously soaring up. And so that will be when the volume returns to the stock. So we can see the volume here on the screen. And when it comes to the volume, we're at quite the low point in the last year. So we saw the highest volume right before the elections, and then there was that halting and manipulation. We saw a little bit of volume go in during the inauguration, but since then the stock volume has dropped off a bit. But in the shadow of that drop off, and in the shadow of a lot of investors forgetting about this opportunity, we've seen big investors take that opportunity. And so again, Trump heavily moves the markets, and another stock that he may be helping move soon is the other stock that we're going to be talking about here on this channel, one of our favorites, BigBearAi, ticker symbol being BBAI. This is because the CEO of this stock does have ties back to Trump. The CEO of Big Bear was formerly the head of the Department of Homeland Security during Trump's first presidency. So if you don't know what Big Bear is, what they do is they provide AI technology, and one of their biggest customers is the United States government. So there are many investors online very bullish for this because of that reason, and Big Bear has been gaining a lot of big government contracts. So this last year, we really saw Big Bear gain a lot of big government contracts, increasing their revenue. And so just looking at a technical analysis on Big Bear, we are at a crucial level right here. $3.50 is a major resistance level. We were right here right before we did see that big run up to $10.50. And so Big Bear sitting right here at the bottom level on these three that I have here. So we have 350, we have around 450, and then at the top there, we have around $5.15. We could look at the history again right before the massive uptick, and we could see that these are major resistance levels for Big Bear. So for Big Bear from here, what we were wanting to see is a let me bring this down here a little bit. What we're wanting to see in What we're wanting to see in Big Bear is for us to reach $4.50 next. If that were to happen, that would be a 17% movement. And then from there, the next major resistance level would be about a 40% movement up around $1.50. But even though we are on the markets and we have started to see some positive movements as of recently, we can't ignore the potential downside either. So I do believe that the markets will continue to roar up. I do believe that we are on a positive bullish trend upwards, but if the markets were to retract, if we do see a black swan event or something along those lines, Big Bear is a very volatile stock, and it could potentially push back down if something horrible were to happen. If Big Bear doesn't get through these lawsuits, something like that, the potential downside risk would be about 38 cents as well. So and when we look at Big Bear's financials, they are constantly improving. So Big Bear right now is up 5% year over year. Their net income up 51%, and their net profit margin about 53%. And this is just aligning with what we have been talking about for the last 6 months with this stock, and that is how Big Bear has been gaining a lot of big government contracts, and how these government government contracts are going to continue to show up through those earnings reports. And so a lot of these government contracts haven't even shown up in Big Bear's earnings reports yet, but they will in the future when it comes to their revenue, because they have gotten a lot of government contracts, but some of these they have just started to get paid by. They just haven't showed up in the earnings reports just yet. So some of that money may show up in the next earnings report, but overall, this company does report strong revenues right up in the 40 millions. Now, this company doesn't have the best balance sheet overall. They typically will have a negative earnings per share. So they do come in at a lot of net losses with each quarter, but that as an investor is why we are looking at Big Bear over the long term. We personally believe that this company has a long way to run up, and many investors will compare this a lot to Palantir. This company has been making similar movements when it comes to their AI and then how they have been working alongside the government. So with Big Bear right now, again, these are the levels that we are looking at. Right now, we are at this major support / resistance around $3.50. But what we're wanting to see is about a 17% movement to the upside and then to get to $4.50. And then we will see where the levels are tested from there. But that's just my video today on these two stocks that I am invested into. But I would be curious to hear what everyone else thinks about these two stocks down in the comment section below. What you think about the market recovery. Again, for all that have held, congratulations. Give yourself a round of applause, because looking through the forest, past all the fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and staying true and strong to convictions or adding on the dips is really the best way to get ahead. Now, please let me know if you think we are going to continue to see recovery, or if you just think that this is a bull trap. I would love to hear your opinions. Also, please leave a like and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you all in the next video.